Have you ever seen footage like that before? You ever see stuff like that before? You ever seen footage like that before? Or?
It's mad.
You ever thought about that before?
Pigs.
Sent to slaughter, completely innocent. Third of all pigs are put in gas chambers in the UK. I've been to a slaughterhouse in Ballymena, a pig slaughterhouse, and he confirmed that they use that. It's called a Butina gas chamber.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I wouldn't mind.
You wouldn't mind?
No.
What would you not mind?
I wouldn't mind them putting them in and killing them.
Why?
I used to kill the lambs.
Why?
I used to kill the lambs.
Yeah.
Cattle, the cows, lambs and sheep.
I'm going to pay respect to you because I know we're not from the same generation, and I understand now that information now is a lot more accessible than it used to be.
Yeah.
Younger people, they have phones, you can find out everything now.
Find out everything.
But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is, back in your day and everything, like information and stuff like that wouldn't have been accessible.
Oh, no.
So people wouldn't have known. So there was more of an idea of, well, we've always had animals, we've always done it this way, we have to do it to feed our families, etc., etc. And all those points I can completely understand, but where I'm coming from now is I learned that I can be healthy without eating animal products, and so can everybody. Because when we think about why we eat animals, it's to get, like, say, the protein, the iron, whatever, but the animals get it into them through their diet, which consists of plants.
Yeah.
So we just get the plant-based products. We leave the animal slaughter off our plates. It's better for the environment because you don't have to cut down, like, you know, forests and stuff to just have land to graze cattle and everything. And I know, like, I'm sure you used to slaughter the lambs. I'm sure after a while you got used to that, but I'm sure the first time you picked up a little baby animal and sliced their throat, you didn't feel too good about it.
No, I didn't pass no remarks. No. You see, the thing is, the lambs, they are bred and reared
for that purpose.
For that purpose.
Yeah.
Well, then there'd be no need to breed them and have them.
Yeah.
There'd be no lambs.
No, that's a great point, and it's a common objection.
Yeah,
so
there'd be no, if they weren't eating the pork sausages and everything, there'd be no need for pigs.
Right.
Then there'd be none of them in the country.
I get you.
If you didn't need red meat, so there was no.
Let me tell you. Right. There's two points to the answer. The first one is, so the justification of saying that it's okay to consume animals because they were bred for that purpose. Some people in this world breed dogs for the purpose of dog fighting, and they use the exact same justification. They say those dogs were bred for that purpose. Do you think that justifies dog fighting?
No.
So there's an inconsistency in your argument, right? The second point is the fact that they're bred for that purpose. Say if you had the option. Say if you think about it from the lamb's point of view, would you rather choose to not come into existence if you knew that you were going to be bred and you were going to be slaughtered? Or would you still want to be born knowing that someone was going to stick a knife in your throat?
No, I don't know.
Would you say I'd rather not exist?
Yeah, probably would rather not exist. You were just living today.
Yeah, exactly, man, exactly. You know, when they end up dead, you're showing how the animals are slaughtered and how they're treated, and
so just encourage us to be a vegetarian.
Have you ever heard of the word vegan?
Yeah.
Do you know the difference between vegetarian and vegan? Yeah. Okay. You mind if I let you know?
Okay.
So basically, vegans just abstain from all animal products, whereas vegetarians they would stop eating the flesh. They would still consume the dairy products, the milk, the cheese, the ice cream. It's all made from milk, and the eggs. And as well, they may still wear the skin of animals, the fur of animals. They may still support horse racing, dog racing, zoos, all these ways that animals are used for money or for something that comes from, you know, their insides or literally the flesh off their backs. So the vegan perspective is to just not use animals whatsoever, to respect them.
So vegan is like absolutely no animal.
No, try and cause as little harm to animals as possible. We really just think about it from the animal's point of view, and we think, if that was me, I would not want that to happen to me. I would not wish to put an innocent creature through that.
I killed animals that were diseased.
Oh, not for slaughter, like, yeah. Was that section in the slaughterhouse where they were taken?
The foot and mouth and all was on.
Yeah. So
condemned animals where they were all died. The meat was all dyed blue, so nobody could buy it again.
The contaminated ones, yeah. It's interesting that you would have then killed them out of a compassionate, like a merciful killing, because they're not well.
Animals, mate. I'm an animal lover, but at the end of the day, they were fucked, like.
Those animals. Yeah, no, I totally get that. Where I was coming from was, I think it's painfully ironic that you were like mercy killing the sick ones when maybe like in the next room or whatever, the animals who weren't ill were being hung upside down and having their throats sliced, perfectly healthy, nothing wrong with them.
Do you eat meat? No.
Used to eat meat for like 23 years. Yeah, like everyone else, man, I understand.
Watch
Like
Gamechanger on that.
yeah, you seen it? It's good, isn't it? Yeah.
Stop eating meat already, wasn't it?
Aye.
Fella eating the chicken, and then a fella eating the steak, and then the fella eating the
Testosterone
beans.
and everything, and the erections and everything,
The
and
chicken's better for you, and the chicken made his heart level, fat school.
yeah.
You know, it's a bit bad, like, but
Yeah.
you can't judge everybody for what they eat, you know.
Not at all, not at all.
I'm alive.
The way I understand it, like people aren't aware, so it's not fair to cast like a judgment on them if they're unaware of what they're unaware of, really.
You try and get that game changer through the level.
Yeah.
Stop eating meat. See, the telly shows I watched, I started more valuable.
Yeah, man.
Straight up,
I learned that. So you've seen the documentary. You know that we don't need to eat animal products to be healthy. We can arguably those athletes are like.
Better still, sure. Watching another one. There's another one called fucking
Was it environmental?
about how the cows is actually worse and more in pollution, and the sheep.
Yeah,
it's more-
Cowspiracy.
It's more
on Netflix.
It's hard.
Yeah, it's insane, man.
Pollution. They're killing trees, plants.
Yeah,
animals.
we're literally like bulldozing the rainforest for burgers.
Yeah.
You know, at the expense of the future of the planet and all life on it.
Oh, yeah,
But
it's a bit mad.
one reason why we do this is because you like being in the countryside or whatever, and you see animals in a field, and then you go into the shop and you don't see the part in between. So it's kind of like this illusion of like, I'm informed of what happens because I see the cows and I go into the shop and I know they die. But it's like this, it's not really transparent, really. Recently I learned that there's over 245 or 275 factory farms in Northern Ireland, and there's over 800 in the UK, which are, like, say factory farms, it's those ones that you typically think are in America, the huge ones, sometimes millions of animals under like artificial light. They don't get to see the sun, they don't get to walk on the grass, they're confined, you know, they don't have enough room to express their normal bodily functions and behaviours. They're selectively bred to be heavier, so sometimes they collapse under their own body weight. Because the animals are traumatized, they aren't cannibalistic in nature, but they would cannibalize the corpses because they're just so disorientated and they don't know what's going on. They're fed antibiotics. They could literally not live in those conditions fed antibiotics because they're so, like, they got ammonia from their urine and feces on the floor. It burns their feathers off their backs. It's just horrible, you know. And it's like, you know, when you go into the Tesco's and you see above the fridge like a green field with a farmer and his happy herd, and it's like, you know, Jeremy really cares about like giving you good quality milk and all this, and it's just such a biased point of view, and they're never going to have pictures like that in Tesco's or on the TV or, you know, so it's this like socially engineered angle. It's like one aspect of the bigger picture and it's not the whole thing. And I think that, like, we all like animals, you know. You go on YouTube and like some of the biggest watched videos are like really cute animals. Globally, like, you can look at the demographics all over the world, and like, we love animals, we love these cute animals, but we eat animals as well. But we're not educated or socialized into, it's not like you took a trip to the slaughterhouse in school or anything. You like planted seeds in a pot and you were like, look, I grew my little sprout or whatever. It's just not the same thing. So we just want to show people from the animal's point of view, because animals can never like say anything or reach out and explain what they're going through. So a lot of this is undercover, and it shows how animals are treated when people think that no one is watching, you know. And it's funny because the activism that we do, it's like a global movement, and you watch, like, there's a lot of it on YouTube, and you watch, people will say in America, people will say in Australia, people will say in Canada and Europe, oh, that doesn't happen in my country, blah blah blah. And the fact is, like, it's happening everywhere. People just do not want to believe that it's happening because people don't want to think that they're complicit in something that they're completely against, you know. Like, would you say that you're against that?
Oh, definitely. That's bad.
Yeah. what do you have any thoughts or any questions or? I mean, I know it's obvious that it's. I'm being like overly simplistic and like, is it good or bad? But I'm just trying to ask a question so you can come to the conclusion in your mind and not just pump information at you. But yeah, I mean, have you ever thought about the slaughter process or?
Just like briefly, and whenever in school you're taught about it.
Yeah. You're taught about it in a really clean way, though, aren't you?
But in that depth there, you wouldn't really be taught about it yet.
Yeah.
And then to see it, then it's awful to see it.
Yeah. So I know we're talking about lambs. They're killed when they're very young. I'm sure you know all the animals that they're sent to slaughterhouse are killed well before their natural lifespan.
Yeah.
You know, these animals can live a lot longer than we allow them to live. So basically, from my point of view, I'm just trying to. Animals can't speak up for themselves and they can't do anything to help themselves, so we're just trying to let people know that we don't need to slaughter innocent creatures anymore, and we can choose a.
There's our turkeys now.
Chickens, yeah, but I was showing people turkey farming in the UK recently, yeah.
And you don't approve of any of that?
You know, this is happening in our backyard. Millions of animals, hundreds of thousands, whatever, artificial lighting, they never get to see the sun, they never get the free range. Even the ones that are free range, that term doesn't sit comfortably with me, because the free, they're not free because they still go to a slaughterhouse.
They still end up, have to come in at night.
You know what I mean? So thanks for listening anyway. How's it going, man? How you doing?
Not too bad.
Good Christmas?
Oh, aye. Good, surely. What about you?
Aye, it was alright, aye. Any thoughts or anything on what we're at, or?
No, not at all, no.
I'm sure you do, and I'm sure it's probably the complete opposite of mine, and that's okay. That's completely fine. Like, I think it's important to.
You know the chicken, no?
Used to eat chicken, man. Used to go to KFC and get a bargain bucket, dip it in the gravy. Used to go to McDonald's and dip my chicken nuggets in the banana milkshake. I understand the chicken tastes really good.
And what do you eat now?
You can go to Tesco's and get a plant-based vegan chicken. Looks like chicken, cooks like chicken, tastes like chicken. No chicken had to die for it. So yeah, I mean, that's just a small example. There's so many other ways that we can come up with alternatives to like our favorite types of food that have a plant-based origin rather than say like the flesh of a dead animal. Basically, we're trying to give people the idea that like these animals can't speak up for themselves. They're completely innocent. Trying to impart like an idea that they probably haven't considered their whole, just like me, like I hadn't considered it my whole life when I was eating chicken and, you know, drinking the breast milk of a cow and eating the eggs that fall out of a chicken's backside and wearing the skin of a dead animal, and you know.
I couldn't watch that, like.
But can you put it in your stomach? Happy New Year! I know that like people will say that animal flesh tastes nice, that they may like leather shoes,
but
they may wear a fur coat because it keeps them warm. But there's alternatives now that aren't derived from animal origin, and I think it's just more ethical and more compassionate to choose that option, which doesn't come at the expense of an innocent creature suffering and losing their life ultimately. I think it's just the right thing to do when we are exposed to what happens to these animals. So I think as time goes on and we're coming into 2020, like this information is more and more
important.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been important.
Have you heard of someone like if they don't eat meat, they will feel weak?
I know that's a myth. It's a myth because you know why? I can tell you it's a myth. You think about the industry, the amount of money and the amount of animals that are slaughtered, billions of animals every year. They promote that idea that we need those products and we'll be sick without them, which what that does is guarantees customers. It's a fear tactic. You know, they know that if we think that we literally need to eat animal products to be healthy, that we'll do it. I haven't ate animal products in nearly 4 years, nothing. And I'm really good, I'm really healthy, and I'm happier than I've ever been. There's a wide range of food, fruits, vegetables, legumes, grains, many sources of plants that we can consume that don't cause innocent animals to be put in slaughterhouses and stabbed to death and cut up into pieces and end up in the graveyard of our stomachs. You know, the way I think about it now is that my body is a garden. I put fruits and vegetables, and you know what I mean? It's like a nice way to think about it, but really what this is about is showing people the true reality that these innocent creatures go through just for, like, say, our taste.
Is that a gun?
Yeah, so they shoot them in the head and then they shackle them by the leg upside down, and it's hard to watch, isn't it?
Yeah.
And do you eat animals?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm a big fan of meat.
I understand.
So
I understand.
It's really hard for me to get rid of it.
I understand. I didn't stop because I
When
didn't
did you
like
stop?
like March 2016, something like
After
that.
you see
Seen this, and I heard a very educated man give a really good lecture about it. I just want to go back to what you said about you like the taste of meat, so it would be hard. I really understand that because I love the taste of meat. I used to eat it every single day, and I didn't stop because I
How do you
suddenly
do that?
because there's so much other tasty food to eat.
To watch a woman who broke all the records in the running and the bike.
Who's that, a vegan athlete, was it?
I think it's thought she wouldn't have no energy. You know,
Yeah, completely smashing records.
Within 12 days of eating meat, their energy level.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So what's stopping you then? Because you know it's bad for the planet. You know it's bad for your health. You called yourself an animal lover.
Well,
Everyone.
Tastes great.
All right. No, here. I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you. I used to eat it for many, many years, and I'll still acknowledge that it tastes good. But then it becomes a question of what's more important, taste or someone's life.
maybe that part hasn't hit me yet, just,
And
you know what I mean?
also, it's not as if when you eat vegan food, it's not tasty.
It is tasty.
Like you can have an abundance of tasty food. The difference is like you're not slaughtering an innocent animal. Like we all feel really, I would even say angry when we hear about how they eat dogs in China. And you know, do you think like if we brought the dogs from China and put them in our high welfare slaughterhouses here, would you be alright with that?
No.
So do you think just because the dogs are a different species, that means that they deserve to live more than the cow or the pig or the chicken? None of them want to be slaughtered. It's the way we've been socialised and indoctrinated. But are we going to live consciously, or are we just going to walk in the footsteps of everyone who came before us and just do what?
Like
You know what I mean? You could be more like me.
I will be with you today. I've started all fucking.
I'll give you
and stuff and all different things, but
I know your mind's open, man.
It's a bit harder to work yourself out of it than what it is Indian.
Yeah, I mean, lifelong habits of eating animal products. I'm not just saying it's effortless.
Fast food, blah blah blah. This, that, the other, all that's probably.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What I'd say is we can get it into our head that it's difficult for us when we're thinking about only our perspective, but when we think about the perspective of the animals, who's it more difficult for, us or them? Who's really more?
It's actually killing us. It's killing the
It is, but it's literally killing them, literally.
It's killing us too. It's killing the environment for the DLC fans.
Man, see fruits and vegetables, plants, they literally protect us against diseases. And we're eating carcinogenic animal flesh.
You're eating things that are fucking full also just checking.
I'll give you a card because you seem quite curious. What did it for me? There's the one you've seen, Cowspiracy. What the Health, you might have seen that as well. The best speech you will ever hear on YouTube, man. It's free.
You need to get the Gamechangers.
Check it out.
You see Gamechangers, there's a lot of people.
Big. There's a lot of men that would appeal to that.
Big bodybuilders and all.
Yeah.
The strongest man in the world is fucking eating vegetables.
Yeah.
Get the Gamechanger on, you'll probably change that more people's mind.
Will you promise me you'll watch the first one? Man, it will blow your head off your shoulders.
I'll have a wee look at it, man. Thanks very much.
What's your name, man? Darren Thomas. Cheers. Thank you. Happy New Year.
How people can talk.
Yeah, it's sad, isn't it? It's really sad.
Animal watching you, nice.
Yeah. It's so nice to see someone who has a compassionate reaction. Thanks for watching anyway, man. Appreciate it. Veganism gets a bad rep. People hear it, it's like a buzzword, and they're like, oh, their guards are up, vegans are extremists, blah, 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 all these different things. But when you boil it down to its purest form, it's literally just about respecting individuals who have their own self-awareness, have their own interests. Do you think, like, agreeing that would be something in line with your values, do you think, like, trying to live like a vegan lifestyle, and that may sound like a huge step right now, but do you think like living a more peaceful, compassionate lifestyle would be something that either of you would be interested in?
Oh yeah, definitely, especially whenever you see the there.
Yeah. And by the way, see the whole, because I'm guessing in your head you're like, it would be really difficult, it would be really inconvenient, meat's really tasty, all these different things, which are valid objections and everything. Like if I could inform you that like a lot of that isn't the case. I went vegan 4 years ago, and it was It wasn't even that difficult then, but it's so much easier now. Greggs are coming out with, they already have a vegan sausage roll, and they're coming out with a vegan steak and bake in the new year. Subway already have a vegan patty, and they're coming out with a vegan meatless meatball and vegan cheese soon.
It's getting popular as well.
You know, it's getting harder and harder to justify this. But all you have to do is type in tasty vegan recipes into Google, and you will literally see millions of results. A wide range of cuisine, a wide range of plants. But see, really, if it comes down to taste for you, let me ask you this: what's more important, your tastes or an animal's life? And yeah, and I would agree. And another thing that you said, you really like the taste, so it would be hard. Do you think it would be harder for you, or do you think it would be harder for the animal to go through the suffering and the death? Because we have to have your perspective, which is valid and relevant, but we also have the perspective of the animals, which is urgent and also valid and completely relevant. So we think about it from your point of view and the animal's point of view, and we say who is really more having a hard time here. So the way we see it, like, it's inevitable that people are going to switch, not even solely for ethics, for that as well, because this is getting more and more exposure, but also for the planet. Like, we literally don't have enough earth to expand animal agriculture, because as the human population increases, we need more and more earth for more and more animals to be bred. And we will get to this point where, like, the UN, United Nations, they aren't a vegan organization. They're like world leaders who discuss global events and everything. They said, like it's something crazy, like maybe 2010, a bunch of years ago, that we need to shift to a plant-based diet, to, like, as dramatic as it sounds, to save the planet. Like, animal agriculture is, like, responsible for more greenhouse gases than all forms of transport put together. Think about, like, all that land, like deforestation, ocean dead zones, species being pushed to the brink of extinction just for hamburgers, and then human health as well. Like, these animals are fed, like, antibiotics to be kept in these conditions. It gives us antibiotic resistance, so it means we're more prone to diseases. And also cholesterol clogs our arteries, increases our chances of heart disease. Animal protein is incredibly acidic. I'm sure you know, like, an acidic pH in the body is like a breeding ground for disease. Plants are alkaline, so it's better for our health in that way. There's so many benefits, like, really, for the planet, for you, but ultimately, like, animals have to lose their lives just for, like, our taste pleasure.
One more question. Have you considered, like, if human beings stop eating meat, then the animal will be less and less?
I have considered that a lot.
Yeah.
What I've came to understand is the rate that these animals are, the majority of all animals are artificially inseminated, which means the breeding process is controlled by humans, and there is billions and billions, trillions if we include marine life, of these animals being forcibly impregnated and artificially bred. And it's so much so that, to the point that animals in the natural world, species are becoming extinct, because we're cutting down forests, we're taking up more of the ocean for fish farming, that we're pushing wildlife to the brink of extinction. So my sort of rebuttal to that question, which is a great question, and I understand that it comes from a real concern of, like, I don't want to lose animals, I don't want to lose nature and wildlife. We've already pushed so much other species to the brink of extinction that if we stopped breeding these animals, those animals could come back. It would restore the balance in the ecosystems. Animals in like the endangered species zone could come back, could repopulate the natural world. And yeah, think about it like this. When we're talking about if we stop breeding the animals that we eat, we can think about it on the level of species, or we can think about it on the level of the individual. If we think about it on the level of the individual, say the individual chicken, cow, pig, whoever, from their point of view, or imagine if you were in their position, would you want to be bred into existence if you knew that your whole life you were going to be exploited and then murdered? Or would you say, I would rather not exist if my life was going to be one of suffering and exploitation and being slaughtered? Which option?
Second one.
You'd rather not exist, or you'd rather live a life of pain and suffering and be slaughtered?
not exist.
Yeah, me too. And I think that's the most compassionate choice. So I'm not necessarily advocating that these animals don't exist altogether, because the way it's going to work, more and more people stop consuming animals. Over time, they'll breed less and less into existence. We'll be left with a small amount, and we can give them sanctuary. We can let them live in the land and live out their natural life. It's the best decision I ever made. And in the vegan community, people say the only regret I have is that I wish I had done it sooner. Because you can save so many animals from suffering that aren't yet bred into existence. It's you ever think about, like, it's ultimately a business, so it's like supply and demand. They will forcibly impregnate and artificially inseminate animals to breed them for as much. They're watching the stock in the shops, so as people are buying, they'll keep producing more animals. As people stop buying and gradually shift to plant-based eating, they'll breed less and less into existence. So you might be like, I'm just one person, it's really not going to make a difference on a planet of billions of people, but it's literally a market. So if your custom goes elsewhere, which also has a good knock-on effect in terms of our farmers are just going to farm where the money is. So say they see that plant-based agriculture is booming, they'll switch agriculture, they'll stop breeding animals into existence.
I know.
And because I don't want farmers to lose their jobs, but I also don't want to pay to push human beings in slaughterhouses to slice throats all day long. So I know that's like a huge amount of information to process and take in. Have you any questions or?
No, that's it. I was first not there. That's crazy. Like the way
Yeah.
they have the things, isn't it?
Would you like an information card to look into it more?
Yeah, you can.
Because it can do so much more for you in the short amount of time that I'm chatting to you here. And sorry, you want to take one there?
Cheers, thank you very much. Eh?
No, yeah. Actually, in the interest of saving paper, would you share one? Is that okay?
Oh yeah.
Cool. I'm guessing your friends like information is power. You'll never see this on TV, so I would just ask to inform yourselves and then make your own decision. And yeah, January's coming up. Have you ever heard of Veganuary? It's trying veganism for the month of January, basically. Every year they always get record numbers of people signing up, and they have a really high rate of people staying vegan, because when you have support, like, it's always that bit easier. And I feel like you've been really open-minded, and you're not like at all really disagreeing with me, which is beautiful. But if you feel any resistance in like behavior change or your mentality, just keep the suffering of animals in mind. And when you realize it's not so much a dietary choice, it's a compassionate decision to live a more ethical life. And you think about how hard it is for animals when we're not vegan, it sort of toughens your resolve and makes you sort of steadfast in your commitment. So I guess these are animal lovers, and you know what I mean? I don't think that we can call ourselves animal lovers if we're also animal eaters. So it's just moving into closer alignment to what we actually already believe in our hearts, But you have been beautiful people. Thank you for letting me take your time and give you some information. But have a good new year. What are your names? Aaron, Thomas, yourself? Isabella. Have a great day. Thank you so much. Cheers. If you have any other questions, like, I'm more than happy to answer.
Yeah, thank you for telling me that.
No worries. I have a question.
I will try to eat less.
Well, put it like this.
Step by step.
Yeah. I pretty much went vegan overnight. I seen a really powerful talk, and I seen what happened to animals. It took me a little while to find out what I needed to do. But see, the whole I will reduce, because the way I see it, do you think what happens to these animals is unfair?
No.
If we look at it, do you think they deserve that?
No.
Yeah. So I would say it's an injustice. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Let's take another form of injustice. Let's say racism. And we were here and we were advocating that people stop racism, and someone said to me, I will try and reduce my racism.
So you have...
I would say, well, I think it's better if you just stopped altogether.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I'm saying to you, that if we're reducing, say you're only eating meat once a week, to the animal that ends up on your plate for that one day a week, they still lose their entire life. So from their point of view, they really hope that we just stop altogether, because they can't ask us. I mean, they do speak in their own language, but all we need to do is see what happens in a slaughterhouse to understand that they don't want it to happen to them. But I would say that baby steps are for babies, and we're grown-up adults, and we can just understand right away that this is wrong. Ultimately, we do this for the animals who can't do anything for themselves, you know. And I feel like having this conversation with you, you understand that.
Yeah, thank you for telling me that.
Thank you for stopping.
Yeah.
What's your name?
Colleague.
Colleague?
Yeah.
Thomas.
Nice to meet you,
Thank you
Thomas.
so much.
I want to tell you my experience.
Yeah.
Last year I tried to lose weight, then I stopped eat meat for like a week.
Yeah.
And I feel
You felt really bad?
Yeah, I feel very, very bad. I ate vegetable. I ate lots of vegetable, and
Yeah.
I felt very, very bad, and I feel very, very hungry
Yeah.
at night. Yeah.
I understand that. Let me tell you this. You know what makes people feel full after a meal? It's fibre. The only source of fibre comes from plants. It doesn't come from animal products. But the things that will make you feel full is things like oats, beans, you know, chickpeas,
Yeah.
lentils, rice, carbs, potatoes, grains, bread. So it's really, because I hear that often, you know, people say, oh, I tried, but I felt sick after a while, so I had to go back. They aren't aware that there is a bit of research that has to go into it. Because when you take out the meat, the animal protein and the dairy, you have to replace it adequately, and if you don't, it is going to cause problems. It's just about knowing how to go about it. But yeah, when you get your diet right, when you're making sure that you're getting enough protein and everything, you'll feel full. And the thing is, I'm nearly a vegan for 4 years. I would not have the willpower to stick to a diet for this long. But the reason why it's not an issue of willpower for me, it's an issue of conscience, is because of the animals. So I'm not doing this. And as well, I was never big, but I lost a bit of weight from my vegan diet. So you'll probably get some good benefits that way, but try not to think of it as a diet and more as a philosophy of compassion for those who we typically deem lesser than us. Because when you think about it, for how hard it is for the animals when we're not vegan, there's no temptation, there's no issue of willpower. Your resolve is toughened in that you know why you're doing this, and you know that there's nothing that's going to try to convince you into going back to harming animals. Ultimately, when we're not vegan, we're causing unnecessary harm to innocent animals.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for telling me that.
Happy New Year.
Try again.
Yeah, I believe in you, and you've got the information this time. So, thanks very much. Cheers.
Thank you.
Respect.
Happy New Year.
You too. You
Bye.
too. See ya. Any thoughts? What can we do? What do you think we can do?
I don't know, eh?
Why do you think it happens in the first place?
Too many people on the planet.
But you're someone who can do something about it. We can stop paying for it.